Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Gensler and the Commissioners for appearing today. I'd like to begin by focusing on proposed Rule 10B-1 regarding security-based swaps positions. And Chairman Gensler, we've discussed this proposal before, and I appreciate your willingness to engage on this rule and to meet with stakeholders. I know you're familiar with the bipartisan feedback concerning market liquidity. Chairman, would you first briefly touch on if the Commission is still taking the bipartisan feedback into consideration? And I'd also appreciate it if Commissioner Peirce would offer insight on that as well. But first you, Commissioner.
Yes, and your feedback was very helpful because you helped write this provision in the original bill, and I remember it because we worked together on some of that legislation. So while a comment period closed months ago, if feedback comes in, just like this discussion here, we continue to consult and consider that in this. This is about whether in securities-based swaps there's some reporting or transparency for the larger positions to the agency, and secondly, whether there's any public reporting of that. And there was a lot of comments in the comment file to maybe look to just have the reporting to the agency and not have it public, but we're still considering that record.
Commissioner Peirce.
I mean, I think this project is pretty typical of a lot of rulemaking projects at the SEC. We go out with something really broad and very onerous and lacking the data to form the basis for it. And then we get comment back saying, hey, this is unworkable. It's going to have really adverse unintended consequences. And we pull back, and so we're thinking about it now, and I don't know where we'll come out. But I will say if we get it wrong, then we really risk roiling the markets, and so I hope we will take that consideration into account.
The SEC recently made significant reforms to Treasury clearing, which plays a vital role for financial markets in the U.S. economy. Market participants have expressed the need to extend those timelines for implementation to be successful. Chairman Gensler, has there been consideration given to adjusting this timeline?
We worked very closely with the U.S. Department of Treasury and the Federal Reserve on what was, when we adopted this, about a 2.5-year timeline. This is a vital market to the U.S. taxpayers, a $28 trillion Treasury market, and it's really to bring greater efficiency, meaning lowering the cost, and lowering the risk, resiliency through central clearing. The first timeline is on track right now in March of next year for what's called customer clearing. The ultimate timelines go all the way through June of 2026.
Commissioner Peirce, could you offer your perspective on Treasury clearing timeline?
So I didn't support the rule because I thought we could have taken a more measured approach, but now that the rule's in place, I'm committed to as sound implementation as possible, and I think we should be open to the idea of extending the timelines, and also we should be working closely with industry and other regulators to make sure we're getting this right. I've called for setting up a task force to really throw ourselves into the implementation process, and then that will put us in a place to know whether we need to extend timelines.
As many of my colleagues have discussed during the past several years, the volume and scope of the SEC rulemakings have been of concern. The two examples, the custody rule and the predictive data analytics rule, both presented major challenges to the market and both seem to require major revisions to address the unintended consequences. Commissioner Udea, could you discuss how the Commission could better catch these unintended consequences before reaching the proposal stage?
One common tool, which we have not used in recent times, is to hold roundtables and other fact-finding type activities that would lay a better predicate before we issue an actual proposal. That is one of the challenges, I think, and concerns I've had about our current proposals, is they are so broad and so wide. We have the proposal itself, but many times we'll have dozens, if not scores, of permutations and combinations on that. When you have multiple rulemakings all at the same time on different subjects that affect the same entities, it's really hard for them to give us thoughtful feedback on that. So this is one where it's a bit like, I think the saying in construction, measure twice, cut once. We should think about doing the same thing with proposals.
Thank you, Commissioner Udea. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.